Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. This is my May reading wrap-up. I had to stop and think about what month it is now. And I want to start with my favorite book that I read this month. It was unexpected, and I sat down not intending to read it in one sitting, and almost did, except I got called away, so I had to put it down. Otherwise, I think I would have read this book in one sitting. That is Blood Over Bright Haven. You know what happens when you hear a book talked about a lot and it's really, really hyped, and you start to become afraid it's overhyped, and then the more you hear about it, the more reluctant you become to pick it up? Or is that just me? That's what happened with this one, and with Sword of Kaigen, which I still haven't read. But now that I've read Blood Over Bright Haven, I'm more inclined to pick that up. So I was hearing so much about it, I thought this can't possibly live up to expectations. Well, I don't know if you can hear that. It's storming outside. Also, it was pitched sort of as dark academia, so I really thought that it was going to be in a school setting. And it is in an instructional setting, but it's not in a magic school. So that gave this book a unique twist. What's it about? It's everywhere around the city, there is this elemental threat, I think it's called the Blight, that at random will kill humans, animals, anything. It strikes randomly, and it's been ravaging the populations of people outside this haven, the Bright Haven, the city that has this magical protection. And although the story opens with someone from the perspective outside the city, it mostly takes place inside the city, bouncing back between two primary characters. The main character is very young, ambitious, wants to become like in the highest order of magicians in the city, which is typically a position that women are not allowed to hold. So there's this overtone of sexism and dealing with that kind of permeating this book. She is going to take the test to determine whether she's going to be admitted. And I don't want to say too much about what the magic system is, but it's one of those really interesting, hard magic systems that's just different. I haven't really come across something like this before. She begrudgingly becomes accepted, but then the system is trying to undercut her at every turn. For example, instead of giving her an actually trained assistant to help her tackle this big problem that she has to solve in a short amount of time, they give her a janitor, essentially. So the other main character is this janitor character as they're working together to tackle this magical problem that the city is facing, and she is teaching him about the magic along the way. So that's where the instructional part comes together. The way it's all woven together with the characters, what they're going through, they each have their own challenges they're facing within the city and even against each other, because societally the janitor character is from one of the populations outside the city that made it there, was able to survive, but basically lost his entire tribe in doing it. It's just really good. I just wanted to absorb it all in one sitting, didn't want to stop reading it. Page turner, and highly recommended. So if you haven't picked this one up yet, I would implore you, please. One of my friends recently asked me for some book recommendations and said, what's a must read? And I was like, must read. You must read Blood Over Bright Haven. This is a must read. So it's a must read. I also really enjoyed Ninefox Gambit, a military science fiction that I did a reading vlog over. For more in-depth thoughts, non-spoilery, you can check out that video. But this is a story about a commander in this space army that deals a lot with mathematics and how it impacts their formations, their military strategy. And she is basically given this mission, and in order to complete this mission, she requisitions the memories of this traitorous, notorious general whose memories have basically been put in cold storage. So she is able to link up with the memories and the knowledge and the cunning of this general in order to fulfill her mission. But the general is a great strategist and is playing a long game that has to do with their society and their and their religion in general. I will say it's kind of confusing how the world building is presented. You sort of have to try to figure it out as you go. It's unique, but it's confusing. It's really hard to visualize in your mind. As you're being shown the story through mostly Karis's perspective, but through additional soldier perspectives, you get a sense that maybe this isn't set up exactly how it should be. And as Karis is trying to fulfill her mission, because she's very loyal, she serves, that's what she does, there is this greater plot unfolding. So it's a trilogy that's completed, and it was really interesting. You just have to be willing to tackle the world building elements. Then another science fiction, I listened to the audiobook of Expeditionary Force 0 Hour, which I think is book 5 in the series. It's hard to summarize it without spoiling the events of the previous books, but I will say, even though this is a comedic, somewhat simple space opera, well, it's getting more and more complicated as we go. I have to admire the growth of the main character, Joe Bishop, who is the captain of the space crew. In the very first book, Columbus Day, he is a lowly sergeant on leave on Earth when first contact happens. Earth gets attacked by these aliens, and he, in his reckless, innovative Joe Bishop style, manages to capture one of them in his small hometown. And then that alien force leaves to be replaced with another species of aliens who are like, hey, ally with us and we will help protect you from these other aliens. And so Earth and humanity gets thrust into what they soon realize is a complicated scheme of warring alien factions, which Joe goes off, joins the expeditionary force, goes to a different planet to serve, and the story launches from there. It's a really great breath of fresh air series if you're looking for something to either binge read or read in between denser series. It's funny, and I just really like Joe. He is sometimes a bumbling idiot, but also really thoughtful and is always trying to do better. And I think his character is one of the main reasons I'm going to continue to read the series. Also, there's some great side characters. Then switching gears a little bit, Funny Story by Emily Henry. I think I'm going to read everything that she writes. She has a way of being able to write a really solid romance that you get invested in, but also the main characters that she's dealing with, like, it's not surface level stuff. They're dealing with deeper things in their lives, trauma, whatever. It follows a woman who, she was engaged to be married. Her fiance left her for his longtime best friend, childhood best friend, and then the main character winds up needing a place to live, ends up crashing with the now dumped ex-boyfriend of the woman her fiance left her for, and is trying to just get through it. She's a librarian. She is trying to do these wonderful events at the library. But when they get an invitation to their ex's wedding, they decide to sort of try to get back at them, fake date. And the main character is also dealing with some issues with her absent father as well. This one doesn't surpass Beach Reads for me, which was one of my favorites, but it's up there in the top 3. Then I also breezed through Vision in White by Nora Roberts, which is the first book in her Bride Quartet. I think that's one of her most highly acclaimed series. These 4 friends run a wedding planning business at this very gorgeous home that one of the friends inherited from her parents. And this story follows Mackenzie, the photographer. And it really has a lot to say about dealing with someone who's a narcissist. She's dealing with that with her mother, and how you can set boundaries and how it can be really painful to set those boundaries. And ultimately, like, you don't control what the other person's emotions are. You can only control your emotions. That's like, you know, the deep trauma that Mackenzie is dealing with as she is falling in love with someone from her past that has returned to town. Nora Roberts reads for me are really quick. She has a certain writing style. It's hard to explain. Like, it just works, and she writes really relatable characters. that you can get invested in and is setting up this world where I know for the rest of the quartet it's going to follow the other friends running this wedding planning business. So as you read Mackenzie's story, you get glimpses of and interested in the other characters whose story we will explore next. I'm not sure whose story is next, but I will be picking it up. And then I just want to briefly mention some nonfiction I read. Both of them are, I don't know if you would call them pop sci type nonfiction. They were both written by medical doctors when this is their area of expertise. The first one is called Metabolical, which is about basically refined added sugar is very, very bad for you, and goes through the reasons why. And this was eye-opening for me because I've known for a while that I'm addicted to sugar, and this was like the impetus to help break that, because now it's like, ugh, I don't even really want it as much as I used to, seeing the long-term compounding health implications that it has. And the other book is called The New Menopause and talks all about symptoms and how estrogen vastly affects a woman's body. And it was just really fascinating read because it's, even though 50% of the population will undergo this thing, it is not well studied at all. There are ways to make it better that even most medical doctors aren't well versed in, because the amount of time they get to learn it in med school, they only get like a lecture on this topic. That's going to be like 20% or more of my life probably, and I just wanted to learn more about it. So yeah, kind of random, but there you are. And those are the books that I've read this May. Again, I would say Blood Over Brighthaven is a must read. It's a really good reading month for me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, don't forget to support your local library. Thanks.